Welcome and to the session on personality, which is to be continued. In the last session, we defined what is personality and what are the different aspects of personality. We discussed about Freud's theory on personality in details, what is the ego and superego, the different roles it plays, the defense mechanisms, and we discussed about Cattell's theory, the 16 personality factors, Ising's theory and Myers-Briggs type indicator, big 5 personality pattern and all these things. Today we will continue with the next group of theories of personality, which is applicable in the organizational setup, which is more applicable rather in the organizational setup. We first will discuss about what is temperament. Temperament is a configuration of observable personality traits such as habits of communication, patterns of action and of sets of characteristics, attitudes, values and talents. What it tells about is like people according to its according to their nature, their personality traits, specifically habits of communication and patterns of action, they develop certain temperaments which are considerably like stable in state. There is a consistency and those temperaments define the person. The communication of a person can be of two nature. One is of person communicates in a concrete way or person communicates in a abstract way. Like when we are talking of concrete communication, what happens? People naturally think and talk about what they are interested in, and you will find like when they are communicating, you find two distinct areas of subject matter. When you are talking of communication, these two subject matters are what? One is of concrete subject matters of external world, very concrete things which are there, like everyday reality, facts, figures, their work and play, their home, family and surroundings, weather, all about what, when, how, where of life. Other people, primarily those who are communicating about abstract facts, they are communicating about the internal aspects, abstract world of ideas, theories and conjectures and their dreams and philosophies of life, and like their communication is more centered around why, how and what might be if this is life, and all sorts of these type of questions and answers revolving around these questions. At times people may address both of these topics, but in their daily lives generally concrete people talk more of reality and the abstract people talk more of ideas, like how, what would have happened if it would occur in this way, sort of thing. So, there are two distinct subject matters, one is concrete, another is abstract when we are talking of communication, which defines the temperament. While we are talking of ways of doing things or ways of actions, then again it can be classified into two types. One is the utilitarian type and the other is the cooperative type. So, some people who are acting primarily in the utilitarian or pragmatic manner, that is that what is more important to them is the result, to achieve the objectives as efficiently or effectively as possible, and only after achieving the objective they are going to see like what rules they have followed or whether they have acted through proper channels. And those, on the other hand, those who are cooperative in nature, what is more important to them is the way of doing things in a socially acceptable manner. That is, they try to do the right thing, keeping in mind the concerns of the society with agreed upon rules and regulations as given by the society, abiding by the social norms and codes of conducts given by the society. And after that only, when they are sure like they are working within the purview of the social norm, then only they are concerned with the effectiveness of their actions. So, utilitarian people mostly act based on instincts, instinctively, and cooperative people do mostly what is the right thing based on the social sanctions. Dr. David Keirsey, he identified man's 4 basic temperaments as the artisan, the guardian, the rational and the idealist based on these 2 things like the modes of communication and the ways of action. The guardians are concrete cooperators and speak mostly of their duties and responsibilities, of what they can keep an eye on and take good care of, and they are careful to obey the laws, follow the rules and respect the rights of others. As abstract cooperators, idealists speak mostly of what they hope for and imagine might be possible for people, and they want to act in good conscience, always trying to reach their goals without compromising their personal code of ethics. As concrete utilitarians, artisans speak mostly about what they see right in front of them, about what they can get their hands on, and they will do whatever works, whatever gives them a quick, effective payoff, even if they have to bend the rules. As abstract utilitarians, rationals speak mostly of what new problems intrigue them and what new solutions they envision, and always pragmatic, they act as efficiently as possible to achieve their objectives, ignoring arbitrary rules and conventions if need to be. So, we can understand these 4 types, these 4 temperamental types are again linked with different job types. Some job types, some roles in the organization are more certain professions are more suitable for guardians or idealists or artisans or rationals, because the job demands those things, and you can, if you know what is the temperament of that person, we can map the person to the job in a more effective way. So, knowing the temperament of the person, knowing the job requirements side by side helps us to map the person to the correct job. Next, we will discuss about the certain behavioral types which are like type A, type B, type C, type D and type E, types of personality. Type A people are aggressive involvement in a chronic incessant struggle to achieve more and more in less and less time, if necessary, against the opposing efforts of other things or people. These people are always after deadlines. They are tensed about whether they can meet the deadlines or not, leading to more stresses in life. And while in a hurry to reach the deadline, the errors may occur also in what they are doing. So, what the time is a pressure, time factor is a pressure for them, and they want to achieve more and more within a given time. Type B people are oppositely, they are rarely hurried by the desire to obtain a widely increasing number of things or participate in an endless growing series of events in an ever decreasing amount of time. So, type B, if you can understand, they are very casual people, they are like rarely they are moving or they are stressed by the deadlines, and they are carrying out work and in their one work slowly they are doing, and they do not feel the pressure to do number of things in a short span of time. They are more or less in a relaxing mode, and they are generally not very stressed, generally not stressed about like I have to complete sort of thing within a given time frame. Both if you see type A and type B to the extreme degree may be a point of concern for the organization, because type A people may be so hurried to reach the deadline, they may not take care of the processes and errors may occur, unnecessary wastages and errors may occur in their hurry to do so many things within a given point of time. On the other aspect, the type B people, this too much of relaxed attitude, not finding any pressure for the deadlines may also lead to lack of performance in certain cases. It may or may not, but it may, like chances are there, like it may lead to lack of performance. So, what we have to do is to keep a balance somewhere between, like situational cues have to balance between like type A and type B personality pattern. Like those people who are type B, maybe some smaller deadlines have to be set for them, so that the larger span of time be broken down into smaller deadlines, so that at least they try to reach those deadlines in small parts, so that the total work get completed. And the type A people also like they have to be treated in such a way, they have to be counseled in such a way, like they feel less of pressure for the deadline, and yeah, they can concentrate more on the process of the doing things. Type C people, these are the cancer prone personality who are characterized as someone who responds to stress with depression and a sense of hopelessness. Type C personalities have a tendency to be introverted, respectful, eager to please, conforming and compliant. So, we have to be careful of these type of personality, people having these type of personality if we see them around us in the organization, because these may hamper their individual performance, leading to disturbance in the group and organizational performance. So, if you see, if you observe around you, somebody is becoming depressed due to the stress found in the organization, and they are like showing a sense of hopelessness, then immediate feedback, immediate report has to be done to the concerned authority regarding the state of mind of these people, so that they can be put, like they can take the help of the counseling sessions which are there, or even the peers, and the, if no formal step is there, if no formal counseling sessions are available, then of course, like counseling can be done by the peers and your supervisors, the bosses, to at least to know what is troubling that person, and how the others, how the support group present in the form of groups and fellow members, how they can help this person to get out of that depression. Type D, or distressed personality, is characterized by the joint tendency to experience negative emotions and to inhibit these emotions while avoiding social contacts with others. The observation that cardiac patients with type D personality are at increased risk for cardiovascular morbidity and mortality underlines the importance of examining both acute depression and chronic factors, like certain personality factors in patients at risk for coronary events. So, though like these you may think like, why we are discussing type D and type C personality in organizational behavioral, like while we are discussing a subject matter of organizational behavior. These are because due to the pressures faced by people in the organization, situational cues sometimes put pressures on the individuals, challenges on the individuals, and they have to, like changes occurring in the organization, the deadline set, the target set for the individuals to achieve, all these put pressures on the individual. And people, based on their personality pattern, based on their backdrop, based on the background, can try to handle these pressures in different ways. Now, people, the type C people and the type D people who are generally prone to negative emotions and like avoiding, like type D, if you see, like they are generally prone to experience world in a negative, experience negative emotions. Like even if in the same situations other can see the positive things of it, these people are generally prone to see the negative emotions and avoid social contacts. So, they may be more stressful, they may be more stressful as compared to others when there are certain situational aspects which are challenging for these people, or challenging in general, but the reaction of these people as the outcome of which is stress and certain psychophysical symptoms, psychophysical disorders or symptoms that we call, will be of greater degree as compared to people who are not of these type of personality, which is either type C or type D. Like so, these they can, like they will come to express these through psychosomatic disorders, and they will get greater degree of maybe avoidance of work, avoidance of communication with others, avoidance of like absenteeism, all these factors. There will be medical complaints, and so people, if they do, the point of discussion of these personality types over here is to generate awareness about why certain things are perceived in different ways by different people, and what is, like when you are trying to find out the reason, like if not others are behaving in this way, what is so very specific to this particular person who is maybe overreacting or underreacting to certain situations, then you may try to find the answer from this domain of personality. Type E people are those people who love starting new projects, especially impossible ones, and they are designed to create things, not run them. These are a group of creative people who love to do new things, who try to create new things, but when the project starts, when it starts running, until and unless there is again something very challenging in that project, they get bored with that project and they become like less performer. So, if we have these type of people with these type of personality, then we have to design proper jobs for them. We have to think till what time this person will be happy in working in a team which is after a new product and development or development of new technology, whatever it is, and when it is the time for this person to shift from here to a entirely new challenging project. Otherwise, if that shift is not made, the people, these type of people with type E personality will experience boredom in their work and their performance level will come down. So, we have to understand this personality pattern and design proper job settings for jobs for them. Next, we will discuss a very important area, which is personality types and career choice. This was discussed by Holland in 1985. So, realistic is the one type of the personality type, and match is the realistic or the doer, where prefers physical activities that require skill, strength and coordination. The personality traits include genuine, stable, conforming and practical. The examples of the professions could be architect, farmer and engineer. Investigative is a thinker type of occupation which prefers working with theory and information, thinking, organizing and understanding. The traits include, personality traits include analytical, curious and independent. The examples of professions could be lawyer, mathematician and professor. Artistic, the creator type of career which prefers creative, original and unsystematic activities that allow creative expression. Traits include imaginative, disorderly, idealistic, emotional and impractical. Example of professions of course includes artist, musician and writer. Social, which is called the helper, prefers activities that involve helping, healing or developing others. Traits include cooperative, friendly, sociable and understanding. Example professions include counselor, doctor and teacher. Enterprising or persuader prefers competitive environments, leadership, influence, selling and status. Traits include ambitious, domineering, energetic and self-confident. Example of professions are management, marketing and salesperson. Conventional prefers precise, rule regulated, orderly and unambiguous activities. Traits include conforming, efficient, practical, unimaginative and inflexible. Professions are accountant, clerk and editor. So, if you see move through these 6 different types of career choice and the corresponding traits given and the examples of the professions which face into these different types of personality, what you find like the jobs itself have their own personality, like those jobs like artistic, musician and writer, these are the groups of jobs which require originality, creativity, somewhat unsystematic in nature and creative expression, and the traits required in the person is of course imaginative, emotional, impractical, disorderly. So, if you find a match between these two, the personality of the job and the personality of the individual, then you lead to better person job fit. Each of these professions have you will find like have different personalities and they prefer different types of traits. Now, the question is, what is the compatible work environment to be provided for nurturing these types of personality patterns and the jobs? It is not like you provide any sort of environment and each of them is going to flourish. So, the job environment, the work environment has to be preferable work environment for these you to like this fit to be like the best fit sort of thing. So, here we find like in this table shows left hand side the different personality type and the right hand side table, right hand side column shows the compatible work environment, that is most compatible work environment and least compatible work environment. For realistic, of course, the most compatible work environment will be realistic. After that, compatible work environment is one which is investigative and conventional, but the least one is social. So, in this way, like for investigative, the most compatible work environment is that which provides investigative characteristics. After that is of course realistic and artistic in nature, but less compatible work environment is enterprising. Similarly, if we go down the list for artistic, the most compatible work environment is of course artistic, then investigative and social, and least is conventional. For social, the most compatible work environment is social, followed by artistic and enterprising, and the least compatible is realistic. For enterprising, the most compatible work environment is enterprising, followed by social and conventional, and least compatible is investigative. Conventional, the most compatible work environment is conventional, followed by enterprising and realistic, and least is artistic. Because if you move back, you find like conventional is diametrically to some sense opposite to artistic, like conventional, which is organizer, prefers precise rule regulated orderly and unambiguous activities, while we are talking of artistic, it is prefers creative, original, unsystematic activities that allows creative expression. And in between you find like when you are talking of enterprising and your realistic is prefers physical activities that require skill, strength and coordination, and when you are talking of enterprising prefers competitive environment, leadership, influence, selling and status. So, these how the person who wants to do certain conventional unambiguous things it could be more right. It is best adjusted in a conventional environment, but to some extent also can adjust in this sort of environment. If there is a enterprising and realistic environment, the combination of these two will help the conventional organizer to function, but the artistic sort of environment where everything is very unsystematic, he cannot function in that environment. So, we have to keep in mind these compatibleness of the work environment if we are to nurture certain type of personality pattern and map it to the personality pattern of the job itself. Generally, now we are approaching to the next segment of personality theories, like when we are talking of Rogers' phenomenological view or subjective approach. According to this view of Carl Rogers, the person who is experiencing a problem is knowing best what hurts him and what direction should be chosen to remove the problem. The expert can only facilitate the accurate exploration or discovery of the inner resources needed to solve the problem. The solution has to come from the client and cannot be imposed on the client by the expert. This is called client centered therapy. So, what happens over here? Each person is and his or her viewpoints is given total recognition and respect in the organization. The word phenomenological means the person's own view about his own world, which is he only knows about it or she only knows about it, and the counselor from outside or the supervisor or the subordinate from outside cannot interpret in the same way as that person is doing, because due to individual differences their viewpoints about the world will vary. What has happened over here as contrast to the psychoanalytic school where it and the counseling guided by that school, where it is thought like the counselor is the he'll guide and tell what the counselee has to do and how to proceed. Here what is the counselor is just a facilitator of activities, and the counselee or the employee has to come out with the options that he can use to solve the problems he is facing in his life. Because it is assumed, it is believed that the client is very powerful, has a potential to solve the problem. What is required may be just a support, and the counselor provides that support to the client and helps him finding the path that he can choose, that he will choose to solve the problems he is facing in his life. So, the directions to be chosen to solve the problem has to be chosen by the client and not by the counselor. That is why this is called a client centered therapy. Next next theory, which is very important, like while we are moving towards a client-centered therapy, we are giving importance to people viewpoint about their own world. Then this theory which is called the personal construct theory, developed by Kelly, is very important. According to Kelly, people develop internal models of reality which are called constructs in order to understand and explain the world around them in the same way that scientists develop theories. So, they develop these constructs based on their observations, experimentations, and like after changes made after observation, changes in either in the concept or in the ways of doing things, both ways. So, those changes and changes brought in which will help to stabilize the belief system. So, these are a constant process of observation and experimentation. With that, they develop some models of reality. Constructs that start as unstable conjecture, changing and stabilizing as more experience and proof is gained. So, people try to gain proof of what they believe in, experience similar facts so that they can validate their thoughts, and in that process the construct becomes more solidified. So, constructs can be defined by words, but can also be non-verbal and hard to explain, such as like it's a very joyful feeling, like when it's mentioned when your football team wins or the team just won a championship. So, those could be the facts also. Now, when a person's belief system construct is challenged or it is incomplete in nature, it results in emotional states like anxiety, confusion, anger and fear. Constructs are often polar in nature, that is they have opposites, and when the poles are denied, like they are said to be submerged, like when the poles are denied, they become like some sort of like submerged is it gets under a cover. It's for this time being there is not a great expression of it. Now we will get to discuss about details of the construct. So, although we share the idea of constructs through words, the detail of the constructs are particular to the individual and are called personal constructs. So, these constructs are the detail of the exactly how that construct has been formed, what are the elements of it, these are very particular to an individual and these are called personal constructs. So, the degree of different elements present, elements may be same in personal constructs for two different people, but its weightage may vary. So, as a result there is a great difference in the personal constructs. Constructs which are very close to the heart of that person is called core constructs, and other constructs are called peripheral constructs which are not that much important are called peripheral constructs. Constructs may be expanded, dilated to accommodate new ideas when people grow with newer learnings and with trial and error of checking of whether the earlier construct is working or not. The constructs may be either expanded or dilated to accommodate new ideas, or it may be constricted to become more specific in nature. Kelly's basic postulate is that a person's processes are psychologically channelized by the ways in which he anticipates events, which means the ways in which he expects events to happen, he anticipates things, the whole behavior of that person, the person's processes are psychologically channelized in the way that he will anticipate events to happen. He followed this with 11 corollaries. The construction corollary: we conservatively construct anticipation based on past experience. So, past experience is very important in developing the construct of the individual. The experience corollary: when things do not happen as expected, we change our constructs. This changes our future expectations. So, with experience people may change the construct also. The dichotomy corollary: we store experience as constructs and then look at the world through them. Organization corollary: constructs are connected to one another in hierarchies and network of relationship. The range corollary: constructs are useful only in limited range of situations. Some ranges are broad while others are narrow. Modulation corollary: some construct ranges can be modulated to accommodate new ideas, others are impermeable. The choice corollary: we can choose to gain new experience to expand our constructs or stay in safe but limiting zone of current constructs. The individuality corollary: as everyone's experience is different, their constructs are different. The commonality corollary: many of our experiences are similar and are shared, leading to similarity of constructs with others. So, discussing of these constructs help to develop shared constructs. Fragmentation corollary: most of our constructs conflict with one another. These may be dictated by different contexts and roles. The sociality corollary: we interact with others through understanding of their constructs. So, you can see like the constructs have different characteristics, starting from whether they are individualistic in nature, whether they can be shared, whether they can be expanded, whether they can be changed based on experiences, and this becomes the mode of a person's, the unit of a person's behavior, like why the particular person is behaving in certain ways, and like when he is talking or interacting with the other person, based on what he will interact, what is the commonness factor, commonness of constructs that will help two people to share the thought process with each other. So, are constructs always constant, or there is a scope for development and scope for change also. All these factors are explained through the corollary as discussed. Next we move on to, while you are talking of interpersonal situations, in constructs we have discussed some of the interpersonal situations. Next important scale which is available, which is reliable tool available, is called fundamental interpersonal relations orientation behavior, which is called FIRO-B, and it tells about, measures person's need for expressed behavior, that is what a person prefers to do and how much that person wants to initiate action, and wanted behavior, how much a person wants others to initiate action and how much a person wants to be the recipient. So, it measures person's needs for inclusion, that is recognition, belonging and participation, and control, that is influence, leading and responsibility, and affection, closeness, warmth and sensitivity. So, if you see inclusion, control and affection can be classified as like whether it is an expressed behavior or a wanted behavior, and the Fierro-B scale helps to measure a particular person's need for each of these things of inclusion, control and affection, or in other words expressed behavior and wanted behavior. Next we move on to the definitions of personality, which are more concerned with like how personality develops as a process of learning from our environment. This group of theories is very important because it then leaves a scope for changes in personality. If personality is only trait based and based on internal factors, hereditary endowments, then maybe there is a little scope for changing it. But if personality is also based on learning, taken from the environment, cues from the environment and feedback given by the environment, then we may tell like personality is also a changeable factor. We can try to change personality patterns. So, while we are talking of emphasis on learning, the behavioral perspective, B.F. Skinner stated that personality developed in the process of learning from the consequence of behavior produced earlier in our environment called operant conditioning. The nature of these consequences determine whether behavior will be repeated in future or not. Reward encourages repetition of rewarded behavior and punishment weakens the punished behavior. This leading to cognitive perspectives on personality is which tells like the self evaluation is a broad personality construct. According to Judge, core self evaluation are fundamental premises, basic conclusions or bottom line evaluations that individuals hold about themselves and their worthiness, capacity and functioning in the world. It consists of self-esteem, that is individual's sense of liking or disliking for themselves, self-monitoring and the individual's ability to adjust his or her behavior to external situational factors. So, these are personality constructs, personal constructs that the person has about themselves. So, this is called self-evaluation, core self-evaluation. One of that factors is of course self-efficacy. It is that person's belief regarding the competencies and abilities, and it also depends on the magnitude of task difficulty the individual can attain, and strength depends on the individual's belief that whether that magnitude is strong or weak. If it is so, if the capability is generalized across situation, it has influence on the organization in selection decisions. Locus of control determining whether the person is externally controlled, whether a person's performance is due to fate or it is the person who is controlling the events of their lives. These are called locus of control, and people can be classified as internals and externals based on their belief whether they are controlling their fate, controlling the events in life, or the fate or luck is controlling it. According to the Hindu perspective, again there are three three layers of self arranged in circles. We start from exterior self, which is like self, external observable aspects of person through physical features. Then we travel down to Antaratma, the inner self, which perceives things and cognizes, and further inside is the ultimate self, which is the connection with the supreme power and is the transcendent of the God within the self. So, when all these, the outer layer, middle and the inner layer, are quite in harmony with each other, one can realize the highest form of energy. And these could be reached through different paths of yoga, like karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, hatha yoga, raj yoga, kundalini yoga, and mantra yoga. The path a person chooses is based on one's temperament to do, and like what he'll love to do. All will reach to the same thing, but the path differs based on the temperament of the person. Personality helps organizational behavior in determining motivation, selection aspects, counseling aspects, and like putting people to various positions in the organization. The group of personality tests, measurement of personality, if you tell, the group of personality tests available are of course, some we have already discussed, like Big 5 personality, which is a dimensional approach to personality, and it is a set of continuous dimensions on which individuals differ. And Myers-Briggs type indicator, which is a typological approach in which there are two opposing characteristics of functioning where individuals differ. Personality tests are classified as inventories and projective tests. So, inventories are objective tests designed to find out like all sorts of things about individuals, but sometimes you just cannot predict why person is behaving in certain ways, because if people can give misleading answers in inventories based on like how they want to appear to others. So, they can manipulate with these yes no answers to appear in certain way, while actually they are not that person. So, individual inventories cannot like predict a behavior. Projective test is a personality test to like test the unconscious of the person responding to ambiguous stimuli. So, this is different from objective test. So, is that whenever in the projective test, whenever a specific question is asked, so this what will happen, in projective test, what they will try to do, they will give you a very ambiguous stimuli, and they will try to get the implicit attitudes and motivations and try to touch the unconscious of the person. They want to understand the deep seated motivation of the person. Some of the projective tests are Rorschach ink blot test, Holtzman ink blot test. These are ink blots given, and we have to interpret that ink blots. Pictures and stories, then toys and play given to younger children. Finish the background picture and draw a picture. But one point of caution with these projective techniques is that these have to be used by experts who are trained to use these projective techniques, and without training we should not try to use these projective techniques, because interpretations about the unconscious may, if not done by a trained person, then may not be the right interpretation. So, only persons having training to interpret these projective techniques, it's better that they administer these tests and interpret them for the benefit of both the person and the organization. some of these, like you can see the graphic rating scale over here, which is one of the scales like what you see in personality inventories. But the danger is like there could be some dangers like overrating, halo effect, stereotyping or pigeonholing projection. These could happen like while you are trying to use a rating scale, you are trying to generalize people based on these, like either you rate too high or you try to form prejudice and you put people in a single category and all these things. Interviewing works best while you are along with the inventory, you are questioning some people to know more details about it. Behavior sampling also, like you can use like in real life or simulated situations where you can observe behaviors, but it is not true that people will behave similarly in all similar situations. Other types of tests are like achievement tests, measures the amount of information knowledge that has been learned in a particular area, and an aptitude test like if they are likely to be successful in a particular area. So, these are some of the tests, and these can be used as a test battery to know about the holistic personality. The scholastic aptitude test, vocational interest inventories are helps the person to determine if their interests are similar to other person who have been successful in a particular vocation or a job. So, all these tests together can be used as a, it is better to use a test battery to measure the personality pattern of the individual rather than using a single test to come about the conclusion about the personality pattern of certain individuals. Coming to questions, define personality, what are the major forces influencing personality, what is Myers-Briggs type inventory, what are the dimensions in MBTI, what is self-efficacy and locus of control, discuss how they are related to individual personality, differentiate between type A, type B, type C, type D and type E personality, what is the relevance of these personality types in the organizational context, what are the big 5 personality dimensions, how it is related to individual behavior, add a note on how personality can be measured, discuss the relationship between personality types and career choices, discuss Cayley's personal construct theory and repertory grid technique, what is the relevance of these in the organizational context, short notes on CATL 16 PF and FIRO B. So, answers to these questions will help you to understand personality in a better way, the classifications of personality in a better way, and application of personality theories in organization and how to measure personality, so that you will get more equipped to use this in the organization's context. Thank you.